welcome into the show John Foley, who runs the Twitter account 2008philz, which is a very popular one on Phillies Twitter. John, we got to meet you at one of the playoff games. It was great to meet you. Welcome into the show. Why don't you tell people a little bit about, kind of how you took off on this Phillies Twitter landscape and how the 2008philz account started, because I thought it was a pretty fascinating story.
Yeah, thanks, Renee. Thanks, Jamie, for having me on the show. I'm a huge fan. Wish we were here under better circumstances, but So yeah, I guess the whole account got started circa 2015 when the Phils, this year is depressing right now. They let us down. But when you think about the real dark days of 2015, 2016, where they weren't even competitive, we've come a long way from there. But in those years, the team really wasn't worth paying attention to. I was trying my best. The Phillies are always a huge part of my summer. But there was just nothing there. So I just started live tweeting the 2008 season. People seem to enjoy that, and just sort of day by day, just gave a little bit of a alternative universe for people to live in, and try to help get us through those times. And and we made it through. It's hard to talk about on a day like today, a week like today, maybe a month or two, but.
And John, that's I've been hearing stories about that, and I think of your account and the dark days and how bad it was from 2012 to 2021, basically, and it was rough. And we had to hang our hats on Maikel Franco being the answer of this team, and that's kind of in the grieving process. I've come around to, okay, it's not that. We still have a very bright future. We have a very talented ball club. And it hurts so much because the Phillies matter again. So I'm like a quarter appreciative, 75% sad. But that's kind of where I'm at now on this Friday, a couple days removed. How are you doing in the Phillies grieving process?
I mean, I'm hanging in there. This may or may not be vodka at 11 in the morning, but
that's fine.
Whatever you got to do to get by, right? I don't know. Today's probably not the day to feel appreciative that they're in the mix, and they'll probably be right in the mix again next year. You've got pretty much everyone coming back, with the big question mark being Nola. What are they going to do with Rhys? But you've got a core there that's going to be competitive again, and it's the highs and lows of being a relevant baseball team again. So it's bad. It hurts. I know everybody's hurting. I'm hurting. But if you step back, million-mile view, there's worse places to be. We could be in 2015. We've got guys here that can, make another run at it. And again, that's what I just keep telling myself as part of the process.
Sorry, I was gonna say, telling yourself everything's fine. This is fine. Everything's fine. Just trying to talk yourself through it, right?
Right. With the flames behind me, this is fine. So I do think there'll come a time, a month, 2 months, certainly by spring training, where we'll be able to look back, like, wow, that actually was, the way we look back at some of these other seasons. Last year, 1993. Pretty much everything during that golden era run, other than 2008. You're able to look back now and appreciate the fun times. Right now, it's just too hard.
Well, John, I think for me, the hardest thing is, and I've talked to Jamie about this and Tyler about this before, is it's so hard to get to this point. The NLCS World Series, it's not something you take for granted. It's not something you just expect that's easy to get back to. And to get so close and fall short in a series that we all talked and had expectations after going up 2-0, the Phillies are going to win this. I think that's what hurts us the most. It's not a series where it was back and forth. It was a series where the Phillies fully were in the driver's seat and dropped the ball. So I'm curious to know for you, where does this stack up for the Phillies specifically, in worst playoff busts, I guess you could say, and losses in the history of Phillies?
You're absolutely right. I mean, this the hope and the idea that we were up and blew it. Last year's run, it was magical. It was, of course, disappointing. But you had this feeling the entire time that they were sort of cheating death, like they were making it through, catching some breaks, and you felt like, okay, hurry up and win this thing before the magic runs out. This year, up 2-0. I mean, and then coming back to Philly up 3-2. I think they were at that time. The odds makers had them 8-1, 9-1 favorites. That's a different kind of feeling than the disappointment we usually have. I mean, dating all the way back to a heartache in 1993. Blue Jays were a better team. Houston was a better team last year. This year, Arizona was not a better team. The opportunity was right there to get back, and then you would have liked their chances against the Rangers. So it's a little bit unique, this particular pain. For me, just because of the age I was in 1993, I think that cuts the deepest. I think nothing will ever top that in terms of pain. And even though they weren't favored, and now with the benefit of hindsight and many years to think about it, you understand that was a magical run. At the time, as a kid, just heartbreak that can't really be matched. Pretty much after that happened, yes, any of these other losses are going to be heartbreaking, but it's hard to top that one. There's of course 2000.
You always remember your first, John, and 93 was my first heartbreak in the sports world, and I'm not sure I'm fully over it. Roger Mason for Mitch Williams. What the hell was Fergosi thinking? But yeah, I think we're very similar in age. Was kind of like right in that prime, pre-teen, approaching teen, just like sports ravenous kids, and then to see that, and I even knew Fergosi screwed up, and I was 12 years old. So I'm right with you there. It's because of what you just said, the fact that they were favored, the fact that they had home field advantage, the fact that they were the better team, it almost hurts more for me than 93. Like I had it right behind the 2001 Bucks game for the Birds. It really hurt because I had convinced myself that beating Atlanta in Game 3 was their World Series. I was like, if you get through this team and over this hurdle, they're going to win the World Series. And I fully pushed my brain into that pool and that way of thinking, and that made it hurt a lot more.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you bring up the Eagles Bucks championship game. I would wrap all of that, all of those seasons, the Bucks championship loss, the Panthers championship loss, all those early years with the Eagles. That's something different entirely in its own heartbreak. Because we didn't have that one Super Bowl yet. Last year was bad. I had kids in the house crying. Welcome to Philly sports. But I do think some of the sting was taken out of it by the Birds at least having that one Super Bowl trophy. And when it comes to the Birds, I like a lot of people was very much on board with the just one before I die kind of attitude. So I got the one. Hopefully it'll be more. Hopefully it'll be one this year. So the Birds, their whole own set of heartbreak. But yeah, back with the Phillies, 93, these last couple of years. There was a lot of disappointment in what we now call the golden era too, right? Because 2007 to 2011, we all think about it as a big party. There was only one championship in there. 2011 devastating loss. 2010 devastating loss, and then 2011 in retrospect just being the end of the whole thing.
I still don't understand how the four aces can't win a title. That just doesn't make sense to me.
No, I think that was the best Phillies team I've lived through. 102 wins. That collection of pitching was something special, and just got beat. It happens.
Well, it is interesting as you guys both talk about remembering your first. Obviously, in '93, Tyler and I were in a little different spot than you guys. I'm not gonna rub it in your face or anything. But it's a little different experience. But it's still, as you even mentioned with your kids last year with the Super Bowl, we all have that experience. Whereas kids, for me, actually, 2001 when the Sixers lost in 5 to the Lakers after the AI step over Ty Lue. I was in 4th grade at that time. That was like one of my first major postseason memories of Phillies frustration. And, you know, there's been absolutely... Tyler's letting us know he was born December of 93.
Oh, screw you, Tyler.
I was born in September of 92. So by October 23rd of 93, sorry to remember the date and remind you guys of it, I was just a weeble wobble 1-year-old. But either way...
All right, we're not aging ourselves anymore here.
Either way, we all have that moment of that first sting and burn. And like my dad was like, this has been 46 years for me. This is nothing new. So you mentioned 93. Obviously this year, what's kind of your top 3 for all Philly sports? If is there an order that you have of biggest letdowns in the postseason?
For all Philly sports, I would say great point about 2001 Sixers. That gets an honorable mention. I mean, they were going up against Kobe Shaq Lakers. I understand now, but that whole run was just so incredible, and Iverson doing his thing. So that's an honorable mention. The whole, if I can group together all those McNabb Eagles era losses, I think that's something that really deserves an honorable mention too. But I think if I had to have a top 3, I do think this year's in the top 3. Just because they were up so big, you really felt like they had it. Everybody was hot at the right time. They were rolling, and you know, just really had faith in a way that you don't have all the time. Like I said, even last year. So that's in the mix. Again, 2011. In retrospect, you know, not just losing the series, but Howard falling to the ground. I mean. That's got to be in the top 3, and then I just go back to 1993 where I did. You know, now I don't even want to say how old I was, but it was. But yeah, it was in prime years to feel that pain, and you know, the first one hurts the deepest, like you said, Jamie. So it's hard to top those 3. There's a lot of choices out there. There's a lot of heartbreak.
A lot of heartbreak, John. Yeah, a lot of heartbreak. And Greg in our chat is saying that was the most surprising series loss I've ever experienced. And that's fair. And because of the surprise, it led to pain for me. Now, John, one of the things we're going to continue talking about today on the show is the Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson press conferences. And before we send you off, the final one from me, the thing that I thought was the most interesting thing they said yesterday, and I thought they were very truthful. You know, Dave Dombrowski was like, we chased way too many bad pitches out of the zone. It basically killed us. But the thing I thought was most interesting was the decision on Bryce Harper and where he plays in the field. Now, Dombrowski and Rob both said, you know, look, we have to sit down with Bryce and talk about where he's most comfortable playing, where he wants to play. It obviously has a huge impact on the offseason here with not only Rhys, Hoskins, but, you know, your outfield, your infield, like it's a multifaceted type of move. If you had your choice and could tell Bryce Harper, hey, I want you back in right field, or hey, you're our first baseman of the future, what does your gut say right now, you know, 4 days after the season?
It's tough. It's a very close call. I think I would love to see Rhys and his 30 home runs back in that lineup. Can we make it happen? So whatever Bryce wants, I'm sure that's what they're going to do if he feels like he's the first baseman now. All right, let's keep him there. Let's keep him happy. And figure the rest out. I suppose nobody wants Kyle Schwarber in the field, but you could run an outfield of Harper, Castellanos, Marsh in center, Rhys back at first. But what you lose is Rojas in center, which was such a reassuring presence on defense. Now at the same time, he looked completely overmatched at the plate. So that's a tough call. Do you want? So basically, you're choosing between Rojas's defense in center, or Pache. And, Rhys's big bat in the lineup. And it's not just the home runs. He's one of their more patient hitters. I think up there with Stott in terms of taking pitches, working counts, getting the opposing starters pitch count up. It's a super close call. But to me, I just have a soft spot in my heart for Rhys. As much as I love Rojas, maybe let him start the season in the minors, getting everyday at bats, and come back when he's a little more ready, because the glove is definitely ready. The glove was absolutely ready. But it was tough. It was tough to have him up in a bases loaded spot. So that's where it tips the scales for me. What do you all think?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I think the series tilted was Alec Bohm gave Bryce Harper absolutely zero protection in games kind of, 1 through 5 or 6 there. So I think having Rhys back protecting Bryce would do a lot for this lineup. I think it makes you better. But like you said, I think, and I think Renee probably agrees, it kind of comes down to what Bryce wants. He is your franchise.
Yeah. And I agree with, I know in the chat, Matt Deckard saying, I think Rhys is back. Nick gets traded. Scott G saying, I think Rhys is walking. I would love to see Rhys back and back in a big way. And first base means you're moving Bryce. I do love what Rojas brings on the defensive side, but as we all know, great defense is not just enough to win games, especially if you're not able to score runs, and the batting order and the at-bats in general just need to be better. So Rhys is a player that was missed this postseason without a doubt. So, I think it is a very, Greg MC saying it's the most interesting situation. It is. It's like, which would you rather have? Do you want to, on which side of the ball are you prioritizing? And I'm not sure that we have those answers yet, but I would love to see Rhys back and then just figure out the rest from there, honestly. But, John, love the hat, love the commentary and the work that you're doing with 2008 philz with a Z. And excited to be able to chat with you more in the future. So, for Jamie, Tyler, myself, thank you so much for joining us here on PHLY Phillies podcast. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor, and be happy to be back on anytime. Appreciate it.